We are delighted to be joined by the Deputy Chief Medical Officer, Dr. Naresh Chadha, and the head of the vaccine programme here, Patricia Donnelly. Welcome to both of you. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, William.
Naresh, let me come to
William.
you first, if I may, on just the context in which we're having this conversation, which is rising case numbers, hospitalizations and deaths. Can you give us an explanation why Northern Ireland death rates are so bad at present? Nearly twice the UK rate, 3 times the Republic's.
Okay, well, thank you very much, William. Yes, certainly we are in a very, very challenging part of the pandemic here in Northern Ireland. We've seen case rates very, very high, particularly throughout the late summer and going into the autumn. My understanding is that, of course, those rates are very high, and you've obviously outlined some comparisons there between other parts of the UK and the Republic of Ireland as well. But I think it's worth pointing out that we have had very, very high levels of COVID-19 transmission in our population. We have also, as you know, had a number of relaxations over the summer, so society is moving back to normal. We've always said that the vaccination programme would help prevent both hospitalizations and deaths as well. And we've seen very much that it has been able to do that. But yes, certainly you're right, that continues to be at a distressingly high level, but certainly not at the levels that we would have seen perhaps in the January peak. But that's not to minimise the very serious condition that we're in.
Is it mostly about the fact that we also, per capita, have the lowest rate of vaccination?
Well, I think the programme in Northern Ireland has been very successful. If you look at it from the bigger picture side of things, I mean, we've vaccinated almost 88% of our population. They've had at least one dose of the vaccine, and we're close to getting 81 or 82% fully vaccinated. So I think by any measure that is successful, and it's pretty close actually to the UK average. But having said that, it is important that we continue to home in on those groups that perhaps haven't been able to uptake the vaccine in the way that we would have liked, in the sense that the uptake has perhaps been lower than we would have wanted. So we've been particularly working very hard, and I'm sure Patricia will be able to come in on this, on the 18 to 30-year-old age groups, with a lot of initiatives to try and get those groupings up so that we can get those extra percentage points that will make all the difference.
Well, let me come to Patricia. Hi, Patricia. Good to talk to you again. Because, it's one thing to offer people a vaccine. We get that. And to provide for it, it's another thing for people to agree to be vaccinated. I just got a text there from someone who describes himself as an unvaccinated 49-year-old asking, how do I get vaccinated? So there are some people who may be still confused, don't know what to do. There are others who have hesitancy for some other reason, skepticism, all kinds of issues out there. Are you breaking through?
Well, I think we are, but it's very slow, William, as you've reported. I mean, we have over 95% of those 40 years and above who are already vaccinated. And indeed, it's much higher in that older, higher risk age group. And I think that's on the basis that that older population, or the clinically vulnerable, understand that they're vulnerable and therefore come forward. I think it's a harder message for people who feel otherwise fit and healthy, have made good lifestyle choices, and want to be in control, and potentially like the 49-year-old who said, well, I'm not vaccinated. So it wouldn't be unusual, therefore, that they would see their risk as lower. But they can continue to be vaccinated. There are outreach clinics that, if you look on NI Direct, you'll see they're there. And there are a number of community pharmacies. There's 350 of them. They're offering AstraZeneca for those aged 40 and above. And there are 54 of them at the moment offering the messenger RNA vaccine, Moderna. Those are right around Northern Ireland. And as we go through September, that number will increase to several hundred. We're in the process of rolling that out. So there's always opportunities to be vaccinated. You can always come forward at any stage. But it is taking longer, there is no doubt, and especially with our younger people.
81771 specifically for your text, and we're on Twitter. Use the hashtag BBC Talkback. Let's see if we can get through. We've got so many questions. Let's see if we can get through them quickly, guys. Pat in Lisburn, picking up on that last point, Patricia, says, why is it so difficult to get a second dose? I missed my appointment at the SSE Arena in August because I had COVID at the time, and I'm finding it really hard to get a second Pfizer jab anywhere as the mass centres are now closed and many places are just offering first doses or Moderna, AstraZeneca. What do you say to Pat?
Well, again, if they look on, if that inquirer looks on the NI Direct, you will see there are a huge number of outreach clinics that offer second doses. And indeed, many of those that are there offering first doses will do a second dose if someone turns up. Even at our vaccination at the weekend in the Limelight, which was targeted for younger people, we had a number of older people coming in for their second doses.
So just turn up is the answer. Just turn up. Tell them your situation.
Yes.
Let me come to the big announcement yesterday. Naresh, children 12 to 15 years old. This age group has been excluded so far. We've had a change in the policy. What is the difference that vaccinating 12 to 15-year-olds will make for them and for the rest of society?
Yeah, thanks very much, William. I mean, as you've already mentioned, a very important announcement there around offering universally 12 to 15-year-olds the opportunity to get vaccinated. You'll be aware that this was a very difficult and finely balanced decision that had been looked at by the Joint Committee of Vaccination and Immunisation. Back in early September, they reported back that there were small marginal health benefits in this group getting vaccinated. And they had balanced that against obviously issues around side effects, etc. The chief medical officers, as you know, looked at this in more detail in terms of the wider societal public health and particularly the educational benefits, and they concluded that that would clearly tip the balance in favour of recommending that 12 to 15-year-olds be offered the vaccine should they wish to take up that offer, obviously in conjunction with parents.
Yes, I think that's where we are. That's where, but I want to get it. I want to get into some more detail. If you guys would mind, try to keep your answers a bit shorter because I've literally got scores of questions here. Patricia, can I come to you on how this is going to be rolled out to the 12 to 15-year-olds and how quickly you expect to be able to get that category? I think it's roughly 100,000, isn't it, within Northern Ireland, that age group? How quickly you expect to do that?
Well, I don't think we can start this before October. We've got quite a bit of work to do in preparation of consent, etc., and working with the school vaccination team. They were already heavily committed to the flu programme, so it's going to take some adjustment and some additional resource to enable that. But it will happen through the school programme. We've already vaccinated up to about 5,000 who are clinically vulnerable, and we hope to get to the rest again in a matter of weeks. However, we'll be announcing more as we've got the detail of that worked out. In the schools, is that the main platform for vaccination? Yeah. At the moment, that's the way that we believe it's the best way to reach most children. They're already there.
It makes most sense logically, doesn't it? Logistically, rather. Yeah.
Yes, but we do recognise that it will create disruption, William, because this is not like the flu vaccine where they're getting a little whiff of something up their nose. This, they are vaccinated, they then have to wait for 15 minutes, etc. So that creates a bigger logistical challenge. You can't respond to a pandemic without disruption, right? That's just the world we're in. Ursula says, my 17-year-old son got his first Pfizer jab almost 6 weeks ago. Can he get his second jab now and how? Patricia? No, that is too early. All the good evidence is that an optimum time is 10 weeks, so that you need to wait until 10 weeks. And again, if he got it, you will see there will be a clinic that will match the one that he attended in the first place. So wherever he got it, there should be an equivalent clinic running at that location. So if he goes on to NI Direct, you will see it. I know people feel it's really important to try and do this quickly. You've got to do it safely. Yeah.
We talked a lot yesterday about the risks question around vaccinating 12 to 15-year-olds, and we spent a long time on that. I don't want to go into that in too much detail again today, but some of those risks are, of course, associated greatly with a second dose in some of the studies. Patricia, is it likely that 12 to 15-year-olds will eventually need a second jab or some kind of booster?
Well, at this moment in time, we're only been advised to prepare for a single dose.
Yeah.
However, those children who are clinically extremely vulnerable or we've identified are at particular risk are part of a two-dose system. Naresh should be better able to comment on the basis of that advice.
No, absolutely. I mean, at the minute, if you're otherwise healthy, those between the age of 12 to 15 will be starting off with a single dose of a messenger RNA vaccine, namely the Pfizer-BioNTech vaccine. But the JCVI will be reviewing the data very carefully from the appropriate studies and the data that's emerging internationally about when a second dose then would be appropriate for that age group.
Naresh, let's stay with you on this other big announcement to do with the over 50-year-old, the 50s and over, the booster jab. This is to do with waning immunity, yeah? You're going to need another jab.
Yeah, thanks very much, William. Yes, the other big announcements, and there's been a number of big announcements that have obviously come quite quickly, is around the booster jab. So we'll be offering those to those over the age of 50 and, in a number of other conditions as well, particularly underlying conditions and those that are most vulnerable. I think the most important message to give here is that the booster jab has been implemented or is going to be implemented because we are going into quite a challenging part of the pandemic. We're already sort of quite high case numbers in Northern Ireland, and of course that could well persist into the autumn. So it's about giving that extra bit of protection.
We were always expecting immunity to decline over time, weren't we? There's nothing new about that. We were expecting that. Are you surprised at just how much and how quickly immunity has dropped?
Well, I think it's important to say that those that have had 2 doses of the vaccine still have a very, very high level of both immunity and protection. So I think people need to be very confident of the vaccinations that they've had. But I think that this is an extra precaution, basically, just to make sure that those that are the oldest and the most vulnerable will be going into the challenging autumn and winter season with their immunity getting that bit of an extra boost from the vaccination. I'm sure that they'll feel more reassured about that.
Patricia, who can get this vaccine booster? Over 50-year-olds we know, but there are some other categories as well.
There are. For those under 50, those who are clinically vulnerable, who would usually get the flu, with the advice, they've tried to align that so it's a similar group, and also frontline healthcare staff and carers, particularly carers of those who are extremely vulnerable to the virus. So those are the groups that we would have prioritized last time before we dropped down to the normal population. So the same kind of staging that we had last time will also be the staging this time. I do want to remind people, William, that it's a 6-month interval between your second dose and your booster. And some people, will feel anxious about themselves and want to be vaccinated earlier, but they don't need to be. This is naturally staggered. You'll be called when it is appropriate for you to be vaccinated.
Louise asks about carers. She said, will the booster vaccination be available to carers? I care for my dad and I'm under 50, essentially, she's saying, so she doesn't meet the age category.
No, she doesn't meet the age category, but if she had her vaccine as a carer, indeed we know 65,000 people did get vaccinated as part of that carers group, you'll get boosted as part of that carers group. And anyone new coming into the system, they will have to go through, they have to have both their vaccines and then before they step forward.
So as soon as she gets to the 6 months point after her second dose.
And we would ask her then to book into community pharmacy.
Oh, is that what you have to do? You have to book in yourself. They're not going to contact you.
Well, I think we're in the process of working this one out, William. The advice has just arrived with it. So we're looking at different parts of the programme. Trusts will be responsible for care homes and for staff. GPs will be responsible for particularly all those older people and those who are clinically vulnerable. And community pharmacy will be offering the ongoing vaccination programme for people who are not vaccinated, and they will be opportunities for others to book in, particularly the carers group. We've worked out just in terms of timing when we know